Hi everybody, this is a re-release of a video that I made about this time last year. You can see from the title and the thumbnail exactly what we're going to be talking about in this video, but I know that a lot of people don't like any kind of criticism about Martin Luther King. If you're one of those people and you can't take the heat, get off of this channel. As scandals go about Martin Luther King, this one is child's play. There are things out there about Martin Luther King that are so much worse than this that I haven't covered yet. But if you can take it, enjoy the video. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a lot of things in his relatively short life. A minister, a husband, an activist, a father, and the most visible figure in the civil rights movement until his assassination in 1968. But before he became all of those things, he was a college student, just an ordinary guy. Now, there have been a lot of rumors about questionable things that Dr. King may or may not have done in his adulthood, and we'll get into a lot of those heavier things in a later video. Today, we'll discuss something that's not so heavy, but not so great. If there's one thing that we know about Martin Luther King, it's that he had a dream. I suppose all of that time he spent dreaming cut into some of the time that he could have been using to think of his own words for his dissertation. Yes, it has been confirmed that the good Dr. King plagiarized parts of his dissertation, and other reliable sources did some research to prove that he routinely stole a word or two or more from other people that he used in his assignments during the course of his college years, and when he wrote his first book, and even when he stepped into the pulpit to preach. Let's get into it. But first, if you like these videos about the most scandalous people from yesteryear that make the hot mess history with Ty Said What Ty Said channel a time capsule for the culture, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can know every time that I upload one of these videos or every time that I live stream, and comment "I subscribed" in the comment section so that I can say hello to you. Now, on to why you are here. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and his academic credentials are what made him stand out above the other men who were activists in the civil rights movement. The fact that he was a doctor gave him a prominent position above his contemporaries, but those academic credentials of his have been viewed with a little suspicion since the 1990s. Why would that be? Because it has been verified that Dr. Martin Luther King plagiarized parts of his dissertation, the long essay that graduate students have to write in order to be considered for a PhD. Now, in 1955, his review panel at Boston University accepted his dissertation and awarded King his doctorate degree. However, a little more than 3 decades later, it was revealed that Martin Luther King had copied into his dissertation multiple paragraphs from sources verbatim without crediting those sources. That is called plagiarism, and his case was pretty obvious. Generally, getting called out for plagiarism is grounds for getting one's credentials revoked, specifically in academia. But that was not the case for King. This, just like other aspects of his life that don't show him in the best light, seems to have been handled with kid gloves. When the Boston University panel of scholars met to review King's case in 1990-91, the committee did find significant authorship issues with his dissertation. The committee attached a letter to his dissertation with the summary of their findings that points out the plagiarized passages, and that letter remains attached to his dissertation to this day, almost like an asterisk on a sports record. Perhaps all of that dreaming that Dr. Martin Luther King did got in the way of his writing his own original thoughts, or at least citing the sources that he used. And one of those sources was a white theology professor named Dr. Jack Boozer. It is particularly odd to me that Boston University didn't catch King's plagiarism right away, because Jack Boozer was a doctoral candidate there in 1952, just 3 years before King, and King heavily copied this man's unpublished dissertation without giving credit. Now, in the end, when King's dissertation was reviewed, Dr. Boozer's widow said that her husband knew that Martin Luther King stole passages from his dissertation, but he never called King out on his theft. He believed in King's work, and he was just happy to be able to help him, even if he didn't get the chance to offer his services. Wow, what a generous attitude. In your opinion, did the University Review Committee go too light on King and not revoke his credentials just because they wanted to protect his legacy? Or did they make the correct decision in not revoking his credentials because his work still held scholarly merit? Please write your answers in the comment section. I'm curious to see your responses. Now, one case of plagiarism is something that most people can and will overlook. However, according to one of King's friends, King plagiarized more than just his dissertation. Reverend Larry H. Williams was known to be a very good friend of King's in the 1940s, and according to him, Martin Luther King's first public sermon that he delivered was also plagiarized. It was delivered at the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. Reverend Williams said that large sections of King's sermon were taken straight from another sermon by Harry Emerson Fosdick, a sermon called Life is What You Make It. Dr. King was known to have been very charismatic and engaging when he spoke, so I can imagine that his delivery of someone else's words could really fire up a church congregation. But because someone else's stolen words sound more appealing coming out of a different speaker's mouth, does that make it okay for that other person to take those words without giving credit? Maybe if it was just one sermon, but it turns out that Martin Luther King also routinely plagiarized sermons. According to Professor Keith D. Miller, King was particularly fond of Harry Emerson Fosdick's sermons, and he stole several passages from them. One thing that was impressive about King, but certainly a necessity for anyone who made a living out of stealing other people's words, was that he had a remarkable gift for memorizing long passages, so whenever he got before a crowd to speak, he was easily able to pass off the words coming out of his mouth as his own. At least as far as sermons go, Professor Miller did come up with somewhat of an explanation that might excuse King's word thievery to some. And it is basically that, in the world of ministry, there is a school of thought that words are shared assets and not personal belongings. Now, it would be easy for most people to write off the dissertation, and then maybe even some people would forgive the stealing of sermons, especially if those people accept that words are not personal possessions. But King's plagiarism didn't end there. This time, the plagiarism is found in King's first book called Stride Toward Freedom, the Montgomery Story. And the claims of plagiarism haven't come from anyone who personally knows King, so there weren't any personal agendas attached to the claims. This time, the claims came from a number of independent reviewers, many of them who would have even been sympathetic to King's legacy. However, sympathetic or not, the reviewers found that multiple parts of King's books were heavily copied, and again, without attribution or credits to the original sources. And that is called plagiarism. The book contains word-for-word copying of noted religious writers, including Paul Ramsey. And apparently, according to independent reviewers, Martin Luther King's dissertation wasn't his first time copying in the course of his university studies. King is said to have routinely helped himself to other people's work without giving them credit throughout the years of his academic career. there is extensive plagiarism in many of his graduate school term papers. Now, the fact that Martin Luther King was a big-time copycat doesn't make him evil. The stuff that might make him seem evil to some of you is actually coming in the next video. But again, copying words in and of itself isn't evil or bad. A lot of us have copied phrases and sentences from people who wrote or said things so brilliantly that their words captured exactly what we wanted to say, so we just used them. This practice only becomes shady, not evil in my opinion, when the copycat doesn't give proper credit, or in King's case, any credit to the original source. Martin Luther King's cases of plagiarism are particularly puzzling because King was known to have been a good student. The scholars who have reviewed his work and found substantial plagiarism in his writings only know that he did it, but haven't been able to come up with a reason why he did it. And the biggest irony in King's plagiarism is that most of his public speeches are protected by copyright. So if we use his works without permission, we could be sued, even though he never faced consequences for stealing from other people. Yes, Intellectual Properties Management is an Atlanta-based corporation that is the exclusive licensor of his estate, and they might give you a call if you decide to do the same thing to King's work that he did to other people's work. Well, I guess that we know why he was free at last, because copying other people's work really helps to free up a lot of your time. King spoke openly about his own limitations and flaws, and didn't make himself out to be a perfect person. It's time for us to take the same realistic look at him, not just accepting what we were taught about him in an elementary school classroom during Black History Month. Let's do that together, right here on this channel. And here's a warning for you. If this video was a hard pill for you to swallow, you won't want to see my next one. Someone else used an artistic work word for word, and it helped to launch the music duo that faced the biggest music scandal in the history of pop music. Frank Farian, who created Milli Vanilli, just put a Euro dance beat over a song that had already been released by a group called Newmarks. Their 1987 song called Girl You Know It's True came out 1 year before Milli Vanilli's version. And I published a video about that whole debacle that you can see here. I will also leave a link to the video in the description box. My sources for this story are All Things Interesting, the San Bernardino County Sun Archives, the Index Journal Archives, the Journal of American History, and the Washington Post, How King Borrowed. Are you a content creator, influencer, or blogger who feels like your platform could use an extra boost? Are you thinking about becoming a content creator, but you don't know where to start, and you want to be sure that you dot all of your I's and cross all of your T's? If so, Lailah Lynn can likely show you exactly what you need to get on your way. Her fun new class is called The Business of Blogging with Lailah Lynn, and in it, she is sharing the fundamental principles of blogging in 2022. Because let's face it, social media is a moving target, and what worked well 5 years ago is likely not what works well today. And with Lailah Lynn, you're getting the information from someone who is successful at putting the principles to practice on her own social media platforms, and she literally has the credentials to back it all up, as she holds degrees in social media marketing. Lailah Lynn is a multiple six-figure earner whose first social media marketing course helped this channel go from earning $30 a month to earning 5 figures a month. I'm ready to dig in my heels and learn even more so that I can earn even more. Are you with me? If so, hit my link at the top of the description box and join her class to access this amazing, affordable advice from a woman who knows her business, the business of blogging. If you have a business, product, service, YouTube channel, or social media account that you would like to promote on my channel, Email me at tiwan@tisaidwhattisaid.com to get rates for advertising on my community tab, my live streams, and or my edited videos, just like this one. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Ti Said What Ti Said channel. Please leave a thumbs up and comment so that we can get a discussion going. And share this video on all of your social media, especially your Facebook. That really helps me out a lot. And subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can know when my next video is ready for you. And if you don't like what I'm saying, but you love it, feel free to hit that applaud button just below your video screen there and send me some
donations.
Yeah, baby. See you on the next video.